Right. Then good evening to all of you. You all have joined the 2028 A-level biology class, English medium. So today we will be doing an introductory session. So I will be introducing you to the syllabus in A-level biology, and then we will be doing some content as well. It's not just going to be an introduction session. We are actually going to start ahead with the theory and continue. Okay. So today's class will be broken down into two parts. First part would be introduction to the biology syllabus, introduction to me, and introduction to what this class entails. And the second part would be the actual content, that is the introduction to biology. Okay. So if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, please unmute yourself and talk, or you can even send a message, right? So that is the main reason I have kept it to a cohort of only 30 students, because I want to play a major role in each student's lives for them to get an A for A-level biology. Okay, so before we move forward, let me start by introducing myself. I am Ahsan Safir, a fourth year medical student from the University of Sri Jayawardenepura. Okay, so I think this is my 5th or 6th year of teaching. I started teaching as soon as I finished my A-levels. Even before the results came, as soon as I finished A-levels, I started teaching a few of my friends who are planning to do second shy, and then few of my mother's friends, daughters, sons, like that. I started teaching a few students like that. And then eventually, last, I think 3 years back only, when I started to make it like a big group class thing. So, when you have joined this introductory session, I'm going to tell you what we are going to do in this class. We are not going to just teach. We are not just going to, do papers. What I'm trying to create is a system. All right. So obviously, the first most important thing would be for you to understand what is being taught. So that is the teaching part. Okay, that is the teaching part. And I have no doubts in my abilities regarding the teaching part. So we have that covered. Second part would be weekly papers. Weekly papers. So every week I will be providing you with a paper which will contain MCQs, and these MCQs you will have to attempt it, mark it, and write reviews. And again, that is the reason why I have kept it to 30 students only, because then I can individually send a message to each student and ask them whether they did their homework, right? For you to continue with this class, you need to do your homework, because if you don't do your homework, you will be sent out, and the next person who is waiting to get into this 30 will be given an opportunity, right? So this is going to be like a military school type of training. That is why I have now I used to work with Sateha College, but then I branched out for the online part only, so that I can see if I control each and every aspect of your education regarding to biology, if I can make you get an A. So that is my goal. So we have 30 students, around 30 to 35 we'll say. That 30 to 35, I want to get 30 to 35 A's in biology. Regarding your other two subjects, that is actually responsibility of you and your other teachers. But for biology, my goal is to get each and every single person an A in biology. The reason why I say that is, biology is not a subject that is difficult. Biology is a subject that requires a system to learn. Okay, if you had come to the question and answer discussion, I would have given you like a framework on how to study each subject. So again, I am just going to introduce you to the 3 main principles in learning biology. The first one is understanding. Okay, first one is understanding. Second one would be active recall. So I'll just put active. Third one would be spaced repetition. So in this system that I have planned to create, right, these 3 are the most important things that I'm trying to drill into your brains. Understanding part. So in the 3.5 hours that I will be conducting the classes, this understanding part will be done. Then active recall. This active recall will be done by the weekly papers that are given, right? So if we have finished just the introduction to biology, no problem. I will create 25 MCQs on introduction to biology and ask you to attempt it and write reviews. Spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is the most important out of these three in my opinion. The reason is you would have studied something today, you will forget it tomorrow. You might forget it the day after tomorrow. So spaced repetition is when you space out when you review each subject or when you review each content. Okay. So this spaced repetition part will be done again by the weekly papers. How is this going to happen? So now if we have done in the week 1, unit 1, for example, and in week 2, unit 2, the week 2 weekly papers will not be only from unit 2. It will be from unit 1 and unit 2 as well. So when that happens, content that were taught in unit 1 will again be reinforced into your brain when you are learning unit 2 as well. So that is the spaced repetition part. There is also another program that I am planning to keep known as Anki. Right? How many of you all have heard of this app? How many of you all have heard of this app? Anyone? Have anyone heard of this Anki? No, yeah, that's what I thought, right? So Anki. This is another thing that I'm going to introduce to you all. This is like a flashcard app, right? In this, what happens is a question will be presented to you, and then if you press space bar or if you press OK on your phone or something, it will show you the answer. So it's like mini questions that will cover each theory in each unit. So these flashcards work in such a way that when you're about to forget that content or when you're about to forget that theory, that application will tell you, okay, try to answer this question and see. So if you are able to answer it well, okay, that means you can study this later. If you were not able to answer that question, oh no, then you will have to study it again. So all of that will be given by this app, right? So this one, I will create another video and send it as a recording for the registered students, okay? And then I will be making the questions and giving them. All they have to do is just do the question. So this thing, I will create another video to show how to actually, or tutorial on how to learn using this Anki. Because I am also learning now in university. The best way that I learn is through this Anki. So I first understand, then I do the active recall by doing some questions, and then I make the questions on Anki, and then I keep reviewing it. So again, a tutorial on that will be made and shared to you later. Right? So this is the same study system that I have been using to do well in my university exams as well. So then if this study system works for my university exam, then for sure it will work for A-level biology. Right? So this is what you have in this program. And then again, tudes, right? You all don't necessarily have to buy the resource book. I make tudes, and it is actually, let me show you. Right, let's take this one. Right, so something like this. So I will make tudes, and I will send it to you all through a courier, free of charge. It's colored tudes, you don't have to pay anything extra for the tudes. So I will print this colored and then send it to you. So you'll have to send me your address and all of that. Okay. So these tudes also be provided free of charge. Then what else? So all these recordings from the beginning. So let's say in one, you all have been learning with us for 1 year. And then again, all of these recordings will be provided to you for, again, free of charge, unlimited from the beginning till you complete your A-levels. Okay. Then, yeah, that is it that needs to be done. You don't require, a complete war plan to get an A for biology. Just small, simple steps are more than enough. Okay. Understand what you learn, doing questions, retrieval. So this retrieval will be done in 2 methods. One is through this app. But if you are uncomfortable with the app, if you feel like this app does not make sense, you don't like it, it will be done by these weekly papers. Okay. So different methods are given. But what I understood from these students who study for A-levels is, more than learning the content, it's accountability that is a problem. So I'm sure you all would agree. So whenever you start studying, until your exam is what? Next month, you will keep procrastinating. So that is a problem. Because in O levels, maybe the last 2 months were enough. There might be certain bright students who were able to study in 2 months and get what? 9 A's or something like that. But A levels is not like that. If you take the A level biology syllabus, I think there is close to 524 A4 pages worth of content. So that entire 524 pages worth of content needs to be inside your head for you to be able to get more than 75. At least 75% of that content should be in your head for you to get an A for your A-level exam. So that is just one subject. You take physics, you take chemistry. Each of these subjects will span your 2.5 years. It's very large volume, so you cannot rush in the last moment. Literally nobody in Sri Lanka will be able to get 3 A's by just studying 1 month. That is impossible, right? That is how big the syllabus is. Which is why these A levels should not be considered as a sprint, but rather a marathon. And that is where the accountability part comes in. When you're having your exam in 2.5 years, so now it's 2026 March 6th, right? March 6th. So for you to do your March 6th, no? Right, March 6th. So for you to do your A-level exam, it will be in August something, 2028. So who would have the motivation to start studying now? That is why again I have only limited it to 30 people. Each person, me or another person on my team, will send messages making sure you do this weekly paper. You attend the class live. Unless you have some emergency, then you have to let me know previously. You should be able to write and do these review papers. You should join the class live and you should actively participate. So since it's an introductory session, I'm okay with it, right? But if we are moving forward with the theory, it needs to be an active participation. You all don't have to switch on your videos, obviously. I will choose a person and ask questions. That person should unmute themselves and talk. If you have a question, unmute yourself and talk. So that is the main reason why I have limited it to only 30. Okay, so this accountability part is very, very important, and we will make sure to provide you with that accountability. But if you do not do what we ask you to do, then we will have to stop you from joining our classes. Okay, so this is like a strict, like I said previously, strict military program to guide you towards an A. Okay, is that clear? So I have also gone into further detail on how to study each subject. So if you all are curious about that, send me a message. I will share that YouTube link. Okay, so please watch that as well. I'm not going to repeat all of it all over again. Is that clear? Understood? Right. And obviously, to be eligible for registration, you have to fill a Google form that I have sent. And I think there were close to 50 to 55 responses on the Google form from people varying from wanting to be a neurosurgeon, wanting to be a gynecologist, wanting to learn about each part of life, about animals, plants, fungi, microorganisms, all the way to people who do biology just because their father asked them to do or mother asked them to do, right? So I will be going through each reason to figure out the ones who have actual passion for this subject, and those are the ones who I will be taking into this program. Okay, your past marks don't matter. As long as you get an S4, as long as you pass O levels, nothing matters, right? My goal is, whether you're a smart student or whether you're a slow student, my job is to make sure that you get an A at the end. Okay, right? So with that, the introduction to me, you don't need to know much about me. All you need to know is that all you need to know about me is what you will learn about me today, because I'll be teaching the first unit. No, anything else is unnecessary. All right. Then now we will be talking about the A-level biology syllabus, right? So in A-level biology syllabus, you have units 1 through 10. Okay, units 1 through 10. So the first unit is Introduction to Biology. Introduction to Biology. And also one announcement right now. Today the class will be going on till 8 o'clock and a break will be given at 6:20 and again it will be started again at 6:45. Only during the fasting time you will get a 25-minute break and the class will again continue from 6:45. Okay, 6:20 I will be giving the break and we will restart at 6:45. Again, regarding the registration form, do not worry about it. Today again I will be sending the registration form and within today itself I will let you know whether you are eligible to the class. Okay, so if you are eligible to the class, I will send you a message saying that I liked your reason. No, I was moved by the reason why you chose biology, and then if you are okay with it, then you can register to the class. Okay, so I will quickly put my number over here. You can contact this number. 070-129-2450. And my name, I think I forgot to say my name. My name is Ahsan Safi. Okay, so you can see my number. Fill the registration form. Today is a trial class, so anybody was able to join. And I will go through all the forms personally and I will send you a message. Okay, right, and yes, the recordings will be available. This again will be put onto YouTube, so you can watch on that as well. Back to this introduction, that is what we will be doing today. Then the second part is chemical and cellular basis of life. Chemical and cellular basis of life. So I'll give a small introduction to each unit, alright? Chemical and cellular basis of life is where you talk about the common molecules like the chemical and cellular. So the chemical molecules that make up life, the cells that make up life, the functions of the cells that make up life, everything will be discussed in this. So here you would talk about water, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, cells and the organelles and each organelle's function, cell cycle, photosynthesis, cellular respiration, all of it will be taught under this cellular, chemical and cellular basis of life. Then third part is Unit 3. Unit 3 is where you talk about diversity. Okay, Unit 3 is diversity. So in Unit 3, you will learn about evolution, how life originated on Earth. Then you will talk about the different type or the diversity of life on Earth. Like you will talk about the domain bacteria, domain archaea, domain eukarya. These might seem like new terms to you. Don't worry about it. So eukaryotes, prokaryotes, all the organisms that come under eukaryotes, all the organisms that come under prokaryotes, animals, plants, fungi, protists, different types of animals, different types of plants, different types of fungi, everything will be talked about in this third unit. I can't remember the full name. I always refer to as Unit 3 and diversity. Okay. So fourth one is plant form and function. Plant form and function. So in plant form and function, we will be talking about literally the form of the plant or the structure of the plant, the different tissues that make up the plant. Function, the different functions in the different tissues. What is the function of the epidermal tissue? What is the function of parenchyma? What is the function of collenchyma? What is the function of sclerenchyma? How is water coming into the plant? How does transpiration take place? All of it will be discussed under plant form and function. Okay. Then everybody chooses not everybody, most of the people choose A-level biology to become a doctor. So that is actually evident from the form that I sent out. Again, like there were 50 responses, 49. Okay, 49 of those responses were to become a doctor. Right? That is why people choose A-level biology in Sri Lanka. But keep in mind, becoming a doctor is not the only career in biology. I will talk about it in a bit later. Animal form and function. So what is animal form and function? This is my favorite unit, obviously, because that is what I am also learning. Animal form and function is where you talk about the digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, immune system, excretory system, nervous system, reproductive system, homeostasis, skeletal system. What else? There is more, I think. I can't remember all the systems. So all of that will be discussed in detail in animal form and function. So even though they said animal form and function, there is like a one-page introduction where they talk about the digestive system in other animals, circulatory system in other animals, but mainly they are talking about humans only. Okay, this is the largest unit. Oh, this is the largest unit. I think it would take close to 5 months to complete that unit, the largest unit. All right, then you have unit 6, genetics. I am sure that you all would have learned about this because in O levels itself we learn about Mendel, don't we? Yes, you all would have studied a bit. Yeah, exactly. So in O levels also, if you take the way they have arranged the lessons or the biology lessons in O levels, you will see it's a bit similar to the way they have arranged it in A levels. Okay. So genetics. So you all would have learned about Mendel in O levels as well. So they talk about Mendelian genetics, they talk about non-Mendelian genetics, they talk about what is genetics, what is gene, what is the role of DNA, how does one person control this DNA. Okay, then how do we use these genes for our benefit? How do genes control our behavior, our function, our structure? How do genes work in plants? How do genes work in animals? How do genes work in microorganisms? Everything will be discussed in this. Then unit 7, you have molecular biology, recombinant, or it's called recombinant DNA technology. Okay, recombinant DNA technology. So in unit 7, what do we talk about? In unit 7, right, you learned about genes, you learned about DNA in unit 6. In unit 7, you learn about how to manipulate this. How do you take specific portions of genes from one organism? How do you take a gene from another organism? How do you put them together to give rise to a new function? How do we apply this in the real world? Everything is talked about in this molecular biology. That is unit 7. Okay. Then we have unit 8. That is environment biology. Right. Environment biology. I'm sure most of you all do not like to learn about the environment. Right? But what do we learn about in this environmental biology? We learn about the environment. Yes, we learned about the environment. What is there in this environment? All the plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, not only the living things, the non-living things as well, the temperature, rainfall, geography, everything is there in this environmental biology. Now, why do we need to learn about this? Seems like an unnecessary waste of time. Just take a look at anything. Just look around you and see every single thing that you use is taken from the environment. From medication, from your phones, every single thing was figured out using the environment. So let's say the first man or the first few people on earth, so they discovered fire. Did they have phones? Nothing. They discovered fire. How did they discover fire? Using rocks that they found in the environment. So every single human, animal, plants, microorganisms depend on the environment. So we need to protect this environment if we want to survive. So technically it's a selfish thing. Because we want to survive, we need to protect this environment. So how do we protect this environment? We can only protect this environment if we learn about the environment. So that is why you have environmental biology. Then unit 9. Unit 9 you have microbiology. Right. Microorganisms are organisms that cannot be seen by the naked eye. So in microbiology, we learn about all these microorganisms. All right. So if you take one fun fact, you have more microorganisms or you have more bacteria in your body than you have human or living cells. So technically you are a bacterial machine. So you probably did not know that previously. So we know all of this because we learned about microbiology. And then unit 10, we have applied biology. So most of the content that we learn throughout these first 9 units, part of each concept will get applied in applied biology. So it's a very short topic. Unit 1 is the shortest, right? It's like only like 8 pages. Unit 10 is also a bit short. You don't get that many questions. So that is applied biology. So this is the entire biology syllabus that you have for your A-levels. Is that clear? Alright. So this is the entire biology things that you have for your A-levels. All the way from introduction to applied. So we will try to finish or we will try to do some part of introduction today. And then the remaining will be done in its due time. Alright. So do you have any questions up to now? Do you have any questions up to now? Up to what we have done so far? Books. You're talking about... Yes. This is for both grade 12 and grade 13. Okay. So your grade 12 syllabus is actually up to this point. So animal form and function, I told you it's a very large unit. That unit is broken down into two. You have part 1 and you have part 2. Okay. So grade 12 syllabus is actually from this to this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 part 1. So 5 part 2 all the way till applied biology is your grade 13 syllabus. Okay. Regarding books, that's actually a good question because what type of books do we use in A-levels? So in O-levels you would have been provided with that grade 10 part 1 part 2 book. Grade 11, I think grade 10 had 3 parts or grade 11 had 3 parts, I'm not sure, or they both had 2 parts. Anyways, in A-levels they give you a grade 12 resource book. You have something known as a grade 12 resource book, and then you have resource book for each unit afterwards. I think unit 5 part 2 plus unit 6 is given as one book. Then unit 7 plus unit 8 is given as one book. Then unit 9 plus unit 10 is given as one book. Okay, so these are the books that you have for your A-level syllabus. Plus you also have something known as a practical handbook. Practical handbook. So in addition to the theory that we learn, there are few experiments also that we have to learn simultaneously with our theory. But the thing is, in A-level biology, the amount of practical questions they ask is around 2% of your entire A-level paper. So if you don't look at this practical and just study this properly, that means 100% and go, you will be able to get 98% in your A-level exam. That is one thing you need to know about A-level biology, is that if you have these reference books, right, you have these textbooks. These textbooks are like the Bible. Every single question that they will ask is based on this textbook. Every single answer in the marking scheme is also based on this textbook. So if you took this textbook and went to the exam and you did the paper here, right? So you took this textbook and went to the exam and you start writing the answers based on the answers that you find in the textbook. You will be able to get 98%. That is how important these textbooks are. Right? Okay, so these textbooks can be purchased by this places known as Education Publication Department, that is the government bookstores. So there also you can purchase, but the problem is usually it's always out of stock there. So you have to purchase it through some online stores. Okay, but the thing is, you technically don't have to purchase it if you register in our class, because like I told you, these textbooks are very important. Each word in the textbook is important, even if the textbook has a scientific error. Okay, that means a mistake. That mistake will be accepted as the correct answer. That is how important these textbooks are. Right? But the thing about these textbooks is they don't have that many images. So it's a bit difficult to study biology without looking at it, or without seeing how this process takes place, or the structure. You always need an image to learn biology, right? So I make tudes using the text. Okay, using the exact text from the resource book, I make my tude, plus I add images from the Campbell and the internet. So what is this Campbell? This Campbell is the reference book. That means the people who made this textbook, they use this Campbell to make the textbook, right? So the images I take from this Campbell and from the internet, and I'll show you right now. I think right here. So these words that you see here are exactly from the textbook. I haven't changed a single thing. Exactly from the textbook. But as you can see, in our textbook, they would have given cell biology. Like here, biology is a very complex subject in that you have certain areas or branches. Here you have cell biology, histology, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, genetics, ecology. So they would have just given you the words. All I have done is I have just added some images. So these books will be given, or these tudes will be given to you free of charge. Colored, okay? Not black and white, colored, will be given to you free of charge. So technically you don't have to buy a resource book also. But if you want, you can. Alright? Okay, if you want to see the textbook, I think I have it. If you want to see the textbook. Oh no, that is on the initial part. Never mind. Okay. Alright. So these are the textbooks available, and available for your grade 12 and grade 13 syllabus. So as you know, the textbooks are very important. That means the content in the textbooks are very, very important. Okay. So any other questions before we move on to the actual theory? I know you all probably did not expect to learn any theory, but then you need to learn theory and move. Sorry, do you have any?
All school will provide us.
Yeah, certain schools do provide textbooks. I'm not very sure. I did not go to a school that provided a textbook. Alright. So some schools do provide, but anyways, if you join our class also, I will provide you with the tudes. Okay. Then that is it regarding introduction to the introduction. Okay, now we will actually move forward with the introduction to biology, unless you have some other questions. How many pages should our writing books consist of according to you? You all have wonderful questions. In A-level biology, you need to have 400 pages of writing books every month, is what you would have probably thought. I mean, you won't have thought about that anyways. You don't even need a writing book for A-level biology. 0 writing books required. I myself did not have a single writing book for A-level biology where I took notes. No notes at all. Okay? For A-level biology, you do not need to take notes at all. Alright? You do not require writing book for A-level biology. Obviously, I told you I will be giving you weekly papers. To do those weekly papers, obviously, you need to have a writing book to answer those questions. But other than that, you do not require a writing book to take notes. There will be no note taking in this class. I will not be standing here and reciting you the same things you can see in the textbook. Here, all the content, all the notes necessary are given here. All the notes necessary are given here. So I will not be reciting the same thing again and again. So you might ask, okay, sir, out of these text that you see here, what are the most important parts? So now this is unit 1. Technically, they don't ask any questions from unit 1. Maybe like one question. Now let's just imagine this is unit 5. So you might ask, okay, out of that unit 5, can you create a short note and tell me which one is most important? If you write short notes, you will be short in your final exam. The reason is each single sentence is important. For example, we'll take, write a short note. You have an A-level exam. Okay, that actually reminded me. I need to tell you about the structure of the A-level paper as well. I will be doing that. Okay. Write a short note on the sustainable use and management of natural resources and environment. Let's say you got a short note like that in your A-level exam. Okay, so I am your student. Okay, I am your student and I am now writing, natural resources are sources of material and energy found naturally which are used in everyday life and economic development. That entire sentence is important. Here, this is a keyword. This is a keyword. This is a keyword. These natural resources are limited on Earth. Yes, that also need to be written. Due to the increase of growth rate of human population, overuse of natural resources taking place. That also needs to be written. It causes threat of depletion of natural resources. That also needs to be written. Due to overexploitation of natural resources, environmental problems such as environmental pollution, loss of biodiversity, desertification also needs to be written. Okay, so I will not be standing here and telling you the exact same thing on the board. However, there is an actually effective way of note taking. That is the one that you need to do. So now this will answer your next question. So are you saying that we should not take our own notes? No, you need to. But you should not take a separate book and start writing A to Z. That is completely unnecessary. Now, for example, I am teaching you this paragraph. So obviously when I am teaching you this paragraph, I will not only be talking about what is there in this paragraph. I will be telling you other information that will help you understand this paragraph. So if you want, you can write on the tute itself. Okay, so this is this. A is equal to B, therefore C is equal to D. So these additional notes you can take while I am teaching. Okay, this is very important because if not, you will not be able to understand just by reading the text. Okay, but taking a separate notebook and writing, at present our planet is rich in diversity. Life on Earth formed around 3.5 billion years ago. First form organisms are believed to be heterotrophic anaerobic prokaryotes. Unnecessary. Okay, because all of it is already there now. What's the point of writing it again? But again, there are certain people who prefer writing. Now, for example, if I'm learning an essay, okay, I can close the book and I can close my eyes and talk about, okay, this is how water works. This is how carbohydrate works. This is how fats work. This is how proteins work. Certain people, they need to open the book and start writing. Please understand, every single thing I'm telling you regarding how to learn is entirely my suggestion that works best for me and many people as well. However, there might be few people who do not agree with the same learning methods I do. So you can do or follow the learning method that you are comfortable with. If you prefer taking notes, take notes. Some people, they will not, they can't remember until they write that note. Then you write that note, no problem. Okay, just keep in mind, everything I say is not 100% applicable to every student. Each student is different. But I say it is for the general population. So there might be some who are okay with it. There might be some who prefer something else. There might be some who want to make slight modification. So that is again why I want to be like a mentor. Again, why I only have 30. Why I only have limited to 30. So each of you all can send me a message asking, sir, you have said something like this. However, I prefer doing it this way. Do you think this is correct? Do you think this is a scientific method of learning? What do you think? I say, okay, this is a good method. If this works for you, this works for you. However, you can make these small changes to make it more effective. That is how a teacher-student relationship should be. Okay, do not take my word as 100%. You know yourself more than anybody else knows yourself. So please take everything with a pinch of salt. Okay, he's saying something like this, but if I do it this way, it will be better for me. Okay, let me ask him and see, and then I will advise you. All right, that is how it should be done. That is how this journey is supposed to take. We need to have a discussion. Now here obviously I am speaking to a camera, but I know each of you individual persons are watching it through their own devices. So I am speaking directly to you. I am telling you, if you have any issues, you have to communicate with me and sort it out. All right, it cannot just be I'm coming and teaching something for 3 hours and then you're going home and learning it. We need to have an interaction. All right, did I answer your question? Mariam Sabri, did I answer your question? Okay, now there is another question asking, should we memorize the whole book? So like I told you, each paragraph is important, therefore should we memorize the whole book? If you have photographic memory, please do. But obviously nobody has photographic memory. That is why you don't have to memorize the entire book either. Alright? So if you take unit 1 to unit 10, there are certain parts which are high yield or which is important. So the last 20 years, if you take the last 20 years, no questions or an essay has come from this part. No questions have come. Okay? But if you take photosynthesis, if you take cellular respiration, if you take mitochondria, many times, if you take mitosis, meiosis, many times. So those questions or those topics you need to know from A to Z. So when I tell you to memorize, please understand, memorizing, right? Memorizing is not the same memorizing we talk about when we memorize a Quran or when we memorize some other text. That is not the same memorizing we are talking about here. Here we are talking about the first most important step, understanding. When you understand something, you will, okay, step A. The most logical step after step A would be step B. Alright, so then step B takes place like this, which will cause step C. That will cause step D. So when you understand each part, you will not have to memorize it like, step A, step B, step C, step D, step A, step C, step C. No, you don't have to memorize it like that. Okay, so please take that out of your mind. If you understand something, now if you ask me any question, now my favorite subject in university is physiology, right? You ask me any question in physiology, I will be able to answer or write an essay, like specifically respiratory or heart. You ask me something about it, I will be able to write pages and pages. Not because I memorized it, but rather I understood each and every single concept and then linked them together. So don't worry about it. You do not have to memorize the entire textbook. I did not memorize the entire textbook and I got a 48 out of 50 for the bio MCQ. Okay, for A-level bio MCQ, I got 48 out of 50 and I surely did not memorize the entire book. Alright, I studied the key units, the most important parts that keep asking again and again. I did a lot of questions and eventually I got an A for biology. Okay. So do you understand why you don't have to memorize the... Okay, who asked me that question? And it has gotten lost. Okay, so whoever asked me that question, I hope you understood that. Alright. Then past paper book. Past paper book, there's something called Pesuru. If you want, you can buy that. But this biology underwent, not only biology, physics and chemistry, but mainly biology, underwent a major syllabus change in 2019. Physics and chemistry, you can do papers from 2000. Physics, on the other hand, you can do from 1990 even, because physics hasn't changed, because Isaac Newton is the one who figured out the most of our physics in what we learn in A-levels is figured out by Isaac Newton. Alright, so Isaac Newton was in 1600s or 1700s, no? So it wouldn't have changed. But biology, on the other hand, has changed multiple times. The last major syllabus change was in 2019. So if you do questions from 2019, only those are relevant to the new syllabus that we are learning now. Questions before 2019, some of these questions are out of syllabus. So technically, if you want, you can do them, but I am telling it's unnecessary. Doing questions from 2019 onwards, doing past term papers, right? Term papers, model papers from the new syllabus, in my opinion, has much better benefit than past papers. So I did my A-levels in 2021. So 2021, I told you the last major syllabus change was in 2019. So how many past papers did I have? 2019 A-level biology paper, 2020 A-level biology paper. Those two are the only past papers that I did. So then how did I practice? Model papers, term papers. I searched for every single term paper that I could find and I did it. I searched for every single model paper that I could find and I did it. So it is up to you. If you want, you can buy past papers, or if you want, just from 2019 onwards is also okay. Another good question. Sir, is it okay to use other words instead of words they gave in the textbook? Good question. Now, let's go to that example itself. Where is it? Right. Okay. Now there is a question asking you, define sustainable food production. So this is the definition, no? Sustainable food production is the production of sufficient amounts of food for the human population using environmentally safe methods. So in that sentence, this would be a keyword, right? This would be a keyword. This would be a keyword. So if you had written sustainable food production is the production of food for the human population, technically it is correct. It's not entirely correct. Technically correct, no, because you're talking about production of food for the human population. But is that the actual word used? Sufficient amounts of food. So production of food may be, so one fellow I'm only giving 1 gram of rice. So that is also production of food, no? But we are not just giving them 1 gram of rice, no. We need to give them sufficient amount of food. So production of sufficient amount of food. So then this word has to be there in your answer. For the human population. So if we just say production of sufficient amount of food, that is sustainable food production. So is that the correct definition? No. Sufficient amount of food for whom? Who are we producing this food for? So again you need to write human population. So is that the only answer? So producing sufficient amounts of food for the human population. No, it's incomplete, because for it to be sustainable means it has to happen over a long period of time. For it to be sustainable, it needs to have no bad effects on the environment. So environmentally safe methods. So as you can see, each keyword is very important for the definition. So those keywords you need to mention. Anything else? So is the production of food, is the production of sufficient amounts of food, then instead of that you can put okay, technically here you can't say anything else. Sustainable food production is the production of sufficient amounts of food for the human population. If you can write using environmentally safe methods, producing sufficient amounts of food for the human population. So you haven't written the exact same thing. You wrote it in your own twist. But the important keywords are there. Then also you will get marks. So again, this will be discussed in detail as we are doing more questions, as we are doing the theory. Alright. And then there was another question, will I be doing a paper class? Yes, a paper class will be done, but for y'all there is so much time left for the paper class. So we will be starting your paper class when the 2027 batch is doing their A-level exam. That is when we will be starting the paper class. Okay. Then will you be uploading each class in a group, or are we to purchase in a website? No website. We will be having a WhatsApp group. In that WhatsApp group, we will be sending the link. Okay, and then paper structure. Yes, we will be talking about the A-level bio paper structure. Alright. So in the A-level biology paper, you will have in the A-level biology paper, you have two parts, right? The first part is the MCQ. The second part is known as the essay. Alright? Or part 1 and part 2. So part 1, okay, we'll go with part 1 and part 2. That's actually better. Part 1 is the MCQ. Then part 2. Part 2 you have essay, and you have something known as structured essay. Okay, so you are used to an MCQ having 4 options, no? So congratulations, you have evolved. Now you will have 5 options. So how many MCQs do you have? You have 50 MCQs. 50 MCQs with 5 options each. So out of the 5 options, yes, one will be the correct answer, right? Again, this is also new for you all. Out of these 50 MCQs, first 40, that means question number 1 to question number 40 is normal MCQ. So out of the 5, choose the correct one. So it can be the second answer, it can be the fourth answer, it can be the fifth answer. However, from question number 41 to question number 50, it is a bit difficult. So I told you, I got 48 for the MCQ. First 40, I got 40 out of 40. Last 10, I got 8 out of 10. So both my mistakes were from the last 10. So this last 10, what type of questions do you get? In the last 10, you get a question. Okay, let's say you get a question, and then they will give you 5 options: A, B, C, D, and E. Now the special thing about these questions are more than one can be correct. It's a combination. So for example, if statement A, statement B and statement D is correct, then we consider the answer to that question as answer 1. Okay? Then on the other hand, if statement A, statement C, statement D is correct, then we consider it to be answer number 2. So here A, B, D. A, C, D. Then, what if A and B are correct? Then you will consider it to be answer number 3. So A, B are correct. Then if C, D is correct, then it will be answer number 4. C, D. Any other combination. So any other combination means, let's say B and C. B and C, there is no combination here. So B and C will come under answer number 5. Okay. As you can see, E is not included in any of these options. So if it was A, B, E, A and E, B and E, C and E, D and E, just E, or A, B, C, D, E, any combination including E is also fifth one. As long as you have a combination that is not found in these 4, then it comes under answer 5. So answer 5 is any other combination. Right? Answer 5 is any other combination. So these are the MCQs. You have 1 to 40, pretty simple, straightforward. Out of 5, you choose the correct one. 41 to 50, they give you 5 statements with multiple correct answers. So you need to choose the correct combination and give the correct answer key. So if for this question, if it's A, B and D are correct, then it is answer number 1. Alright, so this is the hard part. Many people go wrong here. Okay, right. So 50 MCQs. How many marks for these 50 MCQs? 50 marks for these 50 MCQs. So how many marks? Here for the MCQs, it is 50 marks.
Yeah.
Alright, 50 marks for these MCQs. Alright, okay. 50 marks for these MCQs. And this sequence, by the way, you do not have to memorize it. A table will be given in the A-level exam itself saying, okay, ABD is 1, ACD is 2, AB is 3, CD is 4, any other combination is 5. This format or this table will be given in the A-level exam. You do not have to memorize that unnecessary thing. Okay, but when you go to the A-level exam and if you still need to refer the table to choose the correct answer, that means you haven't done enough questions. If you have done enough questions, these you do not need a table to choose the correct answer. Okay, right. So there is another question saying, is this 50 divided by 2? Absolutely not. So if this entire A-level paper is 100 marks, your MCQs give you 50 directly. The remaining 50 is from your essay. Now once I explain how the essay and the structured essay are divided, you will understand how difficult it is to get marks in essay when you compare it to MCQs. Right. So let's go to the essay part. So in essay, what do you get? Okay. In essay, what do you get? Like I told you, in essay you have first one, structured essay questions. In structured essay questions, you have 4 structured essay questions. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So these structured essay questions are not very difficult. Like you don't have to write so long answers. So directly a question would be like, what is the function of mitochondria? What is the function of chloroplast? Then they might ask in 4 sentences. Now usually they will give 4 sentences, maximum 4 sentences. All the answers are confined to just 1 sentence answers, maximum 4 sentences. So you can see short answer questions. Here they say structured essay. Okay, short answer questions. Each question is 100 marks. Okay, this is also 100. So each question is 100. So totally for the structured essay questions, you have 400 marks. Now, for the most difficult part in the A-level paper is the essay paper. In the essay paper, they will give you 6 essays. Out of that 6 essays, you need to choose 4 essays. Alright, so again, how many essays are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So out of these 6 essays, you need to choose 4 essays. Each essay is 150 marks. So if you choose 4 essays, the total will be 600 marks. Okay, then 400 plus 600 will give you 1000. Okay, 1000 is then divided by 20 to give you 50. So now come back to this. For the MCQ also 50, for the part 2 also 50 marks. So 50 plus 50 is equal to 100. As long as you get more than 75, you will be getting an A. So you see, You need to get 1000 marks for the part 2, while in MCQs it is just easily per question 1 mark. Here, as you can see, you need to answer so many questions to get 1 mark. And especially essays, it is not short answer questions. You need to write at least 1.5 pages per question. All that content should be there in your head. Alright? So how do we do that? Everything will be taught accordingly in the class. So I don't want to overwhelm you. Okay? Don't think it's impossible. It is very possible. So if you think about medical faculty itself, I think around 2000 students get into medical faculty. Out of the 2000, 1800 have an A for biology. So each year 1800 people can get an A for biology. So obviously you also can, right? So it would seem impossible until you actually do it. So now obviously you have what? So much left. You have 10 units. You have so much content. You don't know where to start. Don't worry about it. So when you're running a marathon, you will have 50 kilometers. But at the end of that marathon, you would have completed 50 kilometers. So just focus on the first kilometer. Just focus on the second. So that is how we will be approaching this. Okay, we will be taking it step by step. Do not get afraid. Alright. Then this is the structure of the A-level paper and how marks are distributed. So it is so much easier to get marks from part 1, that is MCQ, more than getting it from part 2. So my unluckiness was when I learned for A-levels, I memorized or understood and memorized the sequence for around 110 essays. Out of that 110, only 2 came in that essay section. So using the knowledge of whatever I had, I tried to write the remaining part and somehow I got through. Okay, so sometimes you will get unlucky as well. Alright, then what is the duration of the paper? Part 1 is 2 hours, part 2 is 3 hours. Structured essay in the part 2 is 3 hours. Out of that, structured essay has 1 hour, essay has 2 hours. So that is the duration of the paper. The papers are not done one after the other. One day you will have MCQ, the next day you will have the part 2. Okay. What about the time management? For MCQs 2 hours, for the essay 3 hours. When I did the paper, for me, I had 1 hour remaining in the MCQs. MCQs 2 hours is plenty, too much time. Essays on the other hand, if you know, that means if you studied and went for the A-level exam, then you will completely finish it at the 2 hours 50 mark, 2 hours and 50 minute mark. At that point only you will finish your A-level essay paper, right? It is a big challenge. In no way am I telling you this is going to be very easy, right? Running a 50-kilometer marathon is also not easy. But what I am telling you is it can be done. Keep that in mind. It is not easy, but it can be done. Okay? Right. So I studied my A-levels in 1 year. Because my first 1.5 years I played cricket for college, right? I mean, at least I tried to play cricket for college. My goal was to eventually play for Sri Lanka, but unfortunately that did not happen. So then during Corona and everything, we all came back to our houses, no? So during that 1 year, I studied for my A-levels from zero and I got through. So what I'm telling you is it is absolutely possible. Alright. Then this is the structure of the A-level paper. Is it better to focus more on MCQ to get an A? Absolutely, right? So by looking at it itself, you can tell. Part 2, you need to work like a... Okay, I was about to say something, but I'm not going to think it's appropriate. Part 2, you have to work very hard. Part 1, on the other hand, you will get 50 marks. If you get all 50, you get 50 marks. But on part 2, you're like, write. You write 6-7 pages to get marks. Okay, so obviously, part 1 is much easier. So focus on MCQs. But just obviously, what is the maximum you can get from an MCQ? 50. 50 is not 75. For 75, you need 75. So for that, you need the part 2 as well. Okay, we will go according to a structured approach. Don't worry, part 2, part 1, everything will be covered completely. Alright, my A-level results is 3 A's for biology, physics and chemistry. What was my district rank? I think island rank was 523. District rank was 132. Yes. District rank was 132. Island rank was 523. Z score was 2.1904. Okay. So I remember it that well. Why? One of the greatest achievements I've had. I have a reaction video actually of me getting this result. Like I was playing cricket for a club, and then during that time only one person was like, "Ado," from the boundary line, right? "Ado, error results have come." So then I'm batting and I'm thinking about that. So I don't know what to do. I can't even focus on this. I can't focus on that because I expected 3 years. That is another matter. But expecting is different. Confirming is different. So I don't know what to do. And then I can't remember what happened then. But I quickly ran out, checked my A-level results. It wasn't loading. So during the A-level results release means how many people? All the more than 100,000 students write A-levels. Each person is checking. So that website also will obviously crash. In addition to that, there is a captcha. Which of these is a fire hydrant? So I am in that much nervousness and pressure. This fellow is asking me to select fire hydrant. So I just gave it to somebody else to do it. And then once it's done, I quickly check. And then I check my results. And when I saw it now, usually the A's come later. That means your biology, physics, chemistry, English, general knowledge. Your marks come later. That means your grade comes later. This one comes first. So once I saw my district rank is 132, I knew for a fact that I'm getting into medicine. Then because first 200 gets Colombo, then 200 to 600 is divided between Javadanapura and Peradeniya. People who live in Colombo go to Javadanapura. People who live in Kandy go to Peradeniya. So I could get Peradeniya, but since I live in Colombo, so that is close to the hospital which Javadanapura students go to. So I chose Javadanapura. So the reaction video is there. If you want, I can show it to you during the latter part of the class. So for physics and chemistry also same, 5-hour paper, 2 hours part 1, 3 hours part 2. Chemistry also same, 5-hour paper, 2 hours part 1, 3 hours part 2. Sir, you could have gotten Colombo right because your district rank is within 200. No. To get Colombo, your island rank has to be within 200. Unfortunately or fortunately, because for the last 2 years, Javadanapura has produced better results than Colombo. So for you to get Colombo, your island rank has to be within 200. And Z-score, forget about this nonsense. Okay, many people are worried about the Z-score. Don't think about the Z-score at all. You have absolutely no point in learning about the Z-score. What for? You are not going to calculate the Z-score, and you can only control your performance. Z-score works by if that in that year, if physics paper was very difficult and you get very high for physics, then your Z-score goes up. Again, you couldn't control anything. You couldn't control other people's performances. You can only control your performance. So you just focus on your performance. Don't worry about the Z-score. You aim to get 3 A's, more than 80, 85 per subject. You don't even have to look at the results sheet. Just apply to Colombo University, you will get. Colombo means you need to get 85. Okay? Just apply to Colombo University, you will get. Don't even to look at your results. Unnecessary to know about how Z-score works. Because Z-score varies from year to year. So my Z-score 2.19 in 2021 wasn't enough for Colombo. But this same Z-score in 2016 or 17, I think, was enough for Colombo. Or at least the Colombo Z-score was 2.2 then. Now the Colombo Z-score was 2.4. So Z-score varies from year to year. Unnecessary to know about it. Your job, get 85 for biology, 85 for physics, 85 for chemistry, and enjoy life. Okay. Is Peradeniya the best or Sri Javadanapura the best for medicine? Colombo is the best for medicine, even though last 2 years our results have been better, but for the previous many years, Colombo is the best. Okay, I am telling it in a bit of patriotism. Why? Because I am from Javadanapura now. But Colombo is better, obviously. It's usually first Colombo, then Peradeniya, and then Javadanapura. I chose Javadanapura because it's closer to me. But usually people choose Peradeniya and then only come to Javadanapura. Okay. Anyways, selection of universities can be done after you get 3 A's. So any questions relevant to how to study A-level biology, ask. After the break, that means from 6:20 to 6:45, there will be a break. After that, we will be continuing with our theory. Okay, so please ask any other questions that you have. Peradeniya University is also okay, because if you get within island 550, you can go to Peradeniya University. So then, have I covered all your misconceptions on A-levels? I gave you a proper introduction to what to expect. Shall we move on to the theory then? Hello. All right. Then we shall move on to theory. Okay, so it's 6:15 now. In 5 minutes anyway, I will be providing you the break from 6:20 to 6:45. Please come back at 6:45. I will be starting at 6:45. All right. Okay. So this tute will be couriered to you. So at the end of the class, I will tell you further details on how to enroll. But before that, we will first learn. Right? One thing about A-level biology that I fail. My grandfather told me used to cut frogs and mice for A-levels. Is it the same for us or changed? So we don't have to cut frogs and mice, but we do look at samples of other animals. Their, the way their respiration organ, the respiratory organs, those type of things are observed under the microscope in schools when they do practicals. But again, those things are not asked for the exam. Sometimes we look at plant species, but we never get to cut frogs. And at least I didn't get to cut frogs. I went to St. Thomas's. They didn't let us cut frogs. Okay. All right. So then, introduction to biology. Obviously, most of you all have started this journey because you want to be doctors. Okay, no problem. But that doesn't mean you need to focus on unit 5 only, which is animal form and function. I chose to do A-level biology because I thought, okay, I'm also going down the medicine path. So then my knowledge that I gained there, I can use to teach. But whatever knowledge I gained there over here is only helpful for what? Animal form and function, genetics, molecular biology, microbiology. So those only it will be helpful for. What about the others? What about diversity? What about environment? All of this knowledge that I gained is from the reference books, Google, other textbooks, and I have to tell you that is the best decision that I have ever made. Because when I did A-level biology, I hated the subject. Right? Can somebody remind me when it's 6:20, because I can't keep staring at the clock. Okay? I absolutely hated biology when I did it. Why? Because I thought of it as a barrier to pass, exam to get an A for. But what I did not realize is that whatever we are learning in this entire syllabus is actually things that take place in real life. We are understanding how life works. That is biology. Biology is the study of life. Humans are not the only life. So now I told you, take my hand for example. 100% sure there is a bacteria here. That bacteria is also a living being. I am also a living being. How does that make sense? Now I can do so many things, this bacteria can't. So how am I also a living being? How is this bacteria also a living being? Okay, what is life? What is life? Do we have a soul? Every single questions like that is answered, or at least tried to be answered using biology. Now, when I made this tube, so whenever I make this tube, I always produce a front page, right? That, or this cover page that is relevant to that topic. So when I'm trying to make a tube for this introduction to biology, I always thought, what can I use? What type of image can I use? What better way to introduce you to biology than to show you how life actually started. So for you to study biology, there needs to be life, because biology means study of life. So for you to study life, life has to exist. So for life to exist, how did life originate? Where did life come from? So looking at it from a completely scientific point of view, leaving spirituality aside, did God create this life? Or did this life form through this Big Bang biochemical evolution? Or did this life come from meteorites? Did aliens create this life? So for us to look at each of these hypotheses, we need to conduct experiments and eventually decide how did life originate. Okay, that is why I have chosen this diagram. This diagram is a situation of how the early earth around 3.5 billion years ago was like for life to be originated, right? Anyway, how life originates will be discussed in detail in unit 3, but what I want you to know is look at biology from a lens in which you want to learn about every single thing, not just to get an A for your A-level exam. If you study just to get an A for your A-level exam, it will be a miserable journey. You will hate the entire journey. Alright? If you take plants, how are plants undergoing photosynthesis? How does transpiration take place? How am I breathing? How can I see you? How am I hearing? Every single thing can be explained by biology. So for that reason, we need to learn biology. So come along, let's start this journey. Okay? Right. Oh, it's 6:20. All right. So that is a good introduction to introduction of biology. So I will give you all a break. Come back at 6:45, okay? 6:45. We will continue. All right.
Recording stopped.
All right, we will start now. So people will join back slowly, but it is okay because this first unit is anyway not very important. All right, so we will begin. So while I was during the break, I got these questions regarding term exam. Yes, there will be term exams, as you know. First term is from unit 1, unit 2 and unit 3 up to a certain topic. Likewise, you have 6 terms in your A-level journey, 3 terms in grade 12 and 3 terms in grade 13. So term exams will be kept just like how you would have in a actual school. So the way that we will be conducting these exams are, you will be asked to switch on your videos and you will have to attempt the exam and I will invigilate it. So after that you will be sending your answers in the form of a PDF and then we will get it marked and send it back to you. Alright. So in addition to that, there will also be unit tests. That is, after we complete each unit, unit 1 does not count. Unit 1 does not count as a unit, but from unit 2 onwards, after we complete each unit also, we will be having a unit test. So again, same principle. You will be taking a photo through sending the answers through PDF, which will be marked and then sent back to you. Okay, right. There's one more thing that I follow actually during my sessions is this summary thing, right? This summary. Now when I teach, all right, this is something that it is scientifically proven. Maximum duration that a student can actually focus would be around 30 minutes. After that, your attention reduces, especially in online classes. All right. So if I continue speaking for 3 hours non-stop, no matter, even if I was the best explainer in the whole world, the initial parts you would have understood, the latter parts, middle and latter parts, you would forget because there's too much information coming to you at the same time and not allowing you to process it. Okay, so this is something that I follow, and for that there needs to be active participation. So now we will do a simulation of that. Can everybody raise your hand if you're actively participating in this meeting? Like, raise your hand if you're actively participating in this meeting. Wow, we have a lot of hands raised. Good. Okay, nice. Okay, it's up and it's going. Okay, you can put your hands back down. So now this is what's going to happen. I will be teaching a concept. All right, that is introduction to biology. I will be teaching a concept. And then you will have to pay close attention for 20 minutes. I will take to teach one concept maybe 20 minutes. So for 20 minutes, I will be continuously teaching. After that, I will stop. I will write 3 to 4 questions on the board based on what I just explained. I will ask one person to unmute and answer in their own words, whatever you understood from it. It doesn't have to be what is there in the textbook or the tute. Anything that you understood in your own words, you have to tell it to me. This is known as the Feynman technique of teaching or Feynman technique of learning, right? If you can explain a concept to a 7-year-old, only then you have understood that subject properly. If you can't explain it to a 7-year-old, you haven't understood that subject, right? So that is the similar thing that we are going to follow in this class. So after I teach for around 20 minutes, I will take a break, write down questions. I will randomly choose one person to answer. Okay, are you all okay with that? Raise your hands if you're okay with that. Nice, we have some good students here. All right, then we will be doing that. Okay, so that is what the summary is about. So, introduction to biology. So anyways, that thing can begin from unit 2 even. This unit 1 is completely about opening your eyes to the world. Opening your eyes to the world of biology. First question we have, what is life? So you can see this man, probably a philosopher in ancient Greek times. What is life? He is asking this question. So you would have heard of this, this Plato and Socrates. They are now big philosophers because they said something so common that even we think about right now. This table is a table because it is a table. So if you said something like that in ancient Greece, you would have become a big philosopher. All right? Coming back to this. What is life? You can look at this question both philosophically and scientifically. Why not combine them both? In this example, I'm going to ask you, whenever we are learning the science part, keep the spirituality aside and let's think scientifically. Your body is made up of cells, right? You have different types of cells. You have nervous tissue, you have muscle tissue, you have epithelial tissue, you have connective tissue. So many different types of tissues make up this human. Okay, right. So you know that there is something known as consciousness. What is the difference between me and this chair? I am able to think, chair is not able to think. I am conscious, chair is not conscious. I have life, chair doesn't have life. But what is life even? What is life? Is it the ability to think? Now my question to you is that every single thing that takes place in your body is a series of chemical reaction. There is no mini man in your brain controlling your body. Everything is a series of chemical reactions. Even now, I am teaching you something. Again, that is also a series of chemical reactions. So in my brain, in the place where the memory is stored, chemicals are being released. Those chemicals are then sent to my nerves. These motor nerves are sent to my mouth. My mouth moves, tongue moves. Then some of these nerves goes to my lungs, sending air outside. That causes the sound to come. That sound is heard in your ears. Your ears, that pressure wave. Now, I'm talking to you through this computer, right? So this will eventually go to as waves and eventually reach your house wherever you are. Okay, then from your speaker these waves come, hit on your eardrum. That eardrum will cause the middle bones that is inside your ear, those bones to move, which will cause fluid to move in your inner ear. That fluid will cause hair cells to move in your inner ear. That hair cells will cause nervous stimulation. That stimulation will be sent to your temporal, that means this part of the brain, and it is processed as sound. Nothing you do is because you think of it. Everything is done as a series of chemical reactions. So think of life in that way and see. Right? I might be wrong. Maybe the current understanding of science also may be wrong. But this is, whenever we are talking about biology, we always talk about the most probable, or this is most likely how life has originated, or this is most likely how we can see, this is most likely how we can hear. So ask yourself that question. Who are you? What is life? What makes me a living being? So you might say you have a soul. I don't think I have a soul. Because if I have a soul, then now how does the soul interact with our cells? Because everything I do is as a result of some muscle contracting or some nerve stimulating. So how does the soul stimulate the nerve? So I don't know. So that is why biology is very interesting. You go to the fundamental levels to learn about life. Okay, that is something that I thought about. All right, but the actual definition of life that we consider is, there are certain things that an organism or that a thing should be able to do for you to consider it to be a living being. One example would be metabolism. It should have chemical reactions taking place. Another example should be reproduction. It should be able to reproduce. Another one is growth and development. So likewise, you have certain specific characteristics which will decide. Now, if you show all of these characteristics, that means you are a living being. So we will be discussing that a bit later. Okay. So what does biology mean? Biology is the study of life. Bios means life. Logos means study of. So biology means study of life. Alright? So the concept of life is not easy to define. That is the example that I was telling you. What is life even? Do we have a soul? We can't say that for sure. That is why they say concept of life is not easy to define. Still scientists are unable to provide an acceptable definition for life. So if you say metabolism. So metabolism means chemical reactions. If chemical reaction takes place, is that life? You can't say that. Why? Fire uses up oxygen. Chemical reaction. So technically a fire is having chemical reaction. So does that mean that fire is a living thing? No. That is why we say that it is difficult to define, or it is not easy to define. Still scientists are unable to provide an acceptable definition for life. Okay? Life is something special and unique which cannot be explained using laws of chemistry and physics. Okay, right. Now the one more thing regarding these tubes are, you have to keep in mind every diagram given in the textbook is important, because it can be given for the exam and you might be able to, that means they might ask you to draw that in the exam as well. This diagram is given by me. So this is not an important diagram. This diagram was only shown for your aesthetics. That means visually pleasing. Alright. So you don't have to study this diagram at all. Okay. Then biology is a subject which is very complex and vast. Hence, for the convenience of studying, it has been divided into three main branches: zoology, botany, and microbiology. Zoology means the study of animals. Botany means the study of plants. Microbiology means the study of microorganisms. So the thing about this is zoology, animals. We have to learn about animals, not just the human body. Alright? So certain animals, they are able to respond to natural disasters before humans. So we need to learn how are they detecting these natural disasters. So for example, elephants can detect an earthquake or a tsunami. So how does an elephant detect an earthquake? So if we learn about the elephant, we know how they will detect that natural disaster. Then we can use that technology to create a device which can detect natural disasters. Okay, so please keep in mind, zoology does not only mean studying humans. Human studies is not the only important thing. If everybody became doctors, who is going to farm? Who is going to study? Who is going to do genetics? Who is going to learn how DNA works? Right? Every single field in biology is important. Do not be a one-trick pony. Okay, once you move on in life, let's say, right, that you did the A levels well, you got 3 A's, you got into a medical faculty, right? And at that time, you are having conversations with maybe other doctors or other senior doctors. So if everything that you can talk about is only medicine, or everything you know is only about medicine, nobody cares, right? You need to be a well-rounded person in extracurricular and in knowledge. You need to know about many different branches of science for you to be considered as a wise and knowledgeable person. So that is the goal that you should have. Do not ever constrict yourself to one thing. So each branch of biology that we learn here, please learn it with utmost enthusiasm. You will find learning as a joy. Now I'm going to tell you this. Now after doing classes, my Saturday Sunday completely full of classes. As soon as my classes is done, I have to study my university things also. I actually like studying. Why? Because I like learning about how different things cause different things. Why do we get heart attacks? Why do we get fat in our arteries? Like that, so many different things I like to learn. So since I like to learn, even if I am tired, I would learn. That is the principle that I want to inculcate or create in you all, right? You need to love learning. Okay? Right. So each different branch, like in zoology, animals, botany, plant. Now I'm telling you this. I was also same position. Botany. I hated botany. But now, as I'm teaching plant biology, I realize how wonderfully complex plants are. Did you know that if there was no transpiration, right? I will draw it here. Okay? If there was no transpiration, so this is the trunk, say this is the leaf, right? If there was no transpiration, that means water being lost. You all know transpiration? Have you all heard of this in O levels? Transpiration? Yes or no? Yes, right. So this transpiration, water leaving from the leaf, is the reason, now this is the ground, this is the roots, okay? Let's say this is the roots. The water being evaporated from the leaves, or this transpired from the leaves, is the reason how, or the reason why as to water enters the root. I did not know this. That means I have just studied biology just for the sake of getting an A. But this is fascinating. If transpiration did not occur, water cannot enter the plant. But since transpiration occurring only, water enters the plant. So all of this is fascinating. Now how does water travel through the plant out? How does this secondary growth take place? How does the plant become thicker? Everything comes under botany. It's very interesting. Don't think, okay, your plant biology. No, do not ever think like that. Always be open to learning. Then only you will succeed in any aspect of life, whether it be medicine or whatever. Okay. Microbiology. Microbiology is the study of microorganisms. Like I told you previously, if you take the human body, we are more bacteria than human because we have more bacterial cells than human cells in our body. All right? That is the fascinating thing about microbiology. A single, okay, let's say two microorganisms that you cannot even see by your naked eye is capable of bringing down an entire large 6 foot tall human. That is me, okay? 6 foot tall human is me, all right? So capable of taking down an entire human like me. So why is that? How does that microorganism do this? So for us to learn about how a microorganism is doing this, what do we need to learn? We need to learn microbiology. So microbiology is also important, okay? That is why we get beautiful water droplets in the early morning in the leaf. Very good question, but incorrect. The early morning droplets that you see in leaf is not due to transpiration, but due to condensation. Right, let's take this water bottle. Okay? Give me a second. Alright. Let's take this water bottle. So you would notice if I did in this water bottle, I have, normal water. That means room temperature water. But I spill this water out and I take cold Coca-Cola and I pour it into this water bottle. What do you think happens after a few minutes? Water droplets will be present on the wall of the water bottle. That is known as condensation. Why? The temperature inside the water bottle causes the air just outside the water bottle to be cooler, and then the water vapor that is present in the atmosphere will cool to become liquid. That is known as condensation, and that is why you get these water droplets on leaves early in the morning. So again, see, that is biology. Technically, that is physics. But now, since you had that observation and you learnt about transpiration, now you know which is correct and which is wrong. Okay, so whenever you go out, always look at these plants. Certain plants grow very tall. Certain plants can't grow more than a few meters. Certain plants need to wind around other plants. Certain plants are parasitic. Certain plants are carnivorous. Certain plants are photosynthetic. Certain plants are non-photosynthetic. You need to, now when you look at the world like that, and once you study biology properly, you will be able to explain each phenomenon. But obviously, don't get too ahead of yourselves because advanced level biology is also still an introduction. You will learn much more detail in university. So if you go down the path of agriculture or plant, you will learn much more details in university than what you will learn in A-level biology. So this A-level biology will provide you with a proper introduction. So whenever you go outside, if you take now you all just went to have iftar, right? Most of you are. So you came back and you ate. So you are chewing. Once you are chewing and you swallow it, you can feel the swallowing until this part. After that, you are not feeling the swallowing. But food still goes to your stomach. Why does that occur? Due to something known as peristalsis. Where do we learn that? Under zoology. Okay. Right. So this is why different branches of biology are important. Then only we can explain different phenomena that take place in our life and all the life that is there on Earth. Right. Different, now under this main umbrella, that means botany, zoology, microbiology, there are other branches of studies as well. They are known as cell biology. Again, please keep in mind, this diagram is not important. What does that mean? It is not given in the textbook. Therefore, you do not require or you're not required to learn it. Okay? Right. So, you do not need to know this. The reason I have given is for you to get an idea only. Cell biology. Cell biology is when you are studying cells. What is present inside the cell? You have organelles present inside the cell. You have nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, peroxisome, lysosome, vacuole, cytoskeleton, so many different organelles. Some of them are just considered as subcellular components, but we just say organelles. Okay? All these different organelles have different functions. And why is each function important? What is the function of the cell collectively? What are the different types of cells present? That comes under cell biology. Okay, then we will move on to the next part, histology. So what do you see here? You can see like finger-like projections from the base. Okay, this is actually a sample taken from the small intestine. So they take a sample from the small intestine and then they undergo some processing and then they put it in between the glass slides of a microscope and they look at it. Okay, so when they look at it, this is not just one cell. This tissue, that is the epithelial tissue or the covering tissue found in the small intestine, is made up of multiple different cells. Okay, is made up of multiple different cells. Multiple different cells. So when a group of cells get together to do a function or to perform a function, then you would call that as a tissue. Okay, and when you study tissue, it is known as histology. Okay, again, this diagram is also not important. It is just given for you to get a good idea. Okay, then anatomy. Okay, this subject is one of my most, I hated this subject the most, right? When you go to medical school, you have your career in medical school is divided into 3 stages: phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 1 subjects are known as basic sciences. In that you learn anatomy, physiology and biochemistry. This is anatomy. Can you see this? You can see the nervous tissue. You can see nerves. Can you see the diagram clearly? I have zoomed in. Yes, no, you can see the diagram clearly? Alright. So take a look at this. You can see nervous tissue. You can see the skin. You can see the muscle. You can see the bones, how the bones are arranged, what muscles are present in front of the bone, behind the bone, to this side of the bone, to this side of the bone, what nerve runs through this side, what artery runs through the back side. Every single thing comes under anatomy. And I did read your Google form responses on why you wanted to do biology. I saw so many people wanted to become surgeon. If you want to become surgeon, you need to be able to be a master in anatomy. Right? I hated this subject because physiology, that is the study of how the body works, is like a sequence. So this causes this. Therefore that causes that. Therefore that causes that. Makes sense. It's a nice flow. But anatomy, you either know it or you don't know it. That is anatomy. Okay, so you need to know exactly where each structure is, exactly what artery supplies each structure. That comes under anatomy. If you study the structure of the studying the gross structure of the body, it is known as the anatomy. So obviously this does not limit to humans. You have anatomy of dogs, anatomy of cats, anatomy of mice, everything comes under that. Okay, again, this diagram is not important, given for you just for extra information. Then physiology. This is the subject I love the most. So there's a quiz, all island quiz from every single medical faculty. So my team was the one that came out champion. So we beat all the other universities. Okay, that includes Colombo as well. Physiology is my most favorite subject. This subject explains how your body works. Take myself for example. My arms are moving. Why are my arms moving? Nervous impulse sent through nerves to my muscle. Okay, muscle contracts, causing my arms to move. Muscle part of the muscle will insert to this bone. This muscle will contract, pulling on this bone, causing it to move. Now imagine, now this is the most fascinating thing in physiology, okay? You are seeing some things, right? Now from your homes, you would be seeing me either on a phone or a computer. What does it mean by, or what does it mean to see? What is seeing? This light, right, reflects off an object. That object, that light ray goes into my eyes, okay, goes into my eyes and it hits on the retina. That stimulates the retina, the cells that are present in the retina. Now again, this will be discussed in detail in Unit 5 Part 2. Okay, this is just to give you an introduction. This light rays will stimulate the retina. Stimulation of the retina will create electrical impulses. As you can see, that electrical impulse will eventually go to your occipital lobe. That is the back side, right? Occipital lobe. There, that electrical impulse is converted to an image. So what you're technically seeing is an image generated by your occipital cortex. There is no such thing as I hope you understand what I mean. That electrical impulse is what you are seeing. You are seeing an electrical impulse being generated in your occipital cortex. That is biology. Take hearing, for example. If you draw your ears, wait, let me get some empty space. Okay, so I'm going to draw your ears. Okay, this is not very anatomically accurate, but just for you to understand, I drew it. Okay, so this is your ear, that is this part. This is your ear canal. Here you have your eardrum. Here you will have 3 bones. Okay, so what happens is, when I am talking, that sound eventually came to your speaker. The speaker is making sounds. How is it making sounds? It is causing vibration in the air. Okay, that air vibration eventually reaches your ear. That same vibration eventually reaches your eardrum. Then this eardrum vibration causes these bones to move. That bone vibrating causes vibration in this fluid filled canal. Okay, let's just imagine it as a fluid filled canal. I'm not going to go into the details. This moving of these bones causes these waves or this vibration inside a fluid filled canal. That vibration of that fluid filled canal, there is something known as hair cells. Okay, that vibration inside these fluid filled canals will cause the bending of these hair cells like this. That bending of that hair cells will cause either sodium or these ions to move into these cells, which will eventually generate what? Electrical impulse. That electrical information will be sent to your temporal lobe, that is this side of the brain. That electrical information is converted to what you are hearing right now. That is biology, or specifically, that is physiology. Okay, do you understand? Do you see why it is fascinating? Okay. What happens if the sound is so loud it exceeds the hearing range of humans? So if the sound is so loud, your eardrums can rupture and you can have hearing loss, either temporary hearing loss or permanent hearing loss, depending on how long you are exposed to that sound. Again, keep this in mind. Humans' hearing range is only a certain frequency. Any frequency more than that or less than that, we can't hear. Again, that is due to the way the human ear or the physiology of the human ear works. Okay. Alright. Then we have biochemistry. Biochemistry is the studies of the biological molecules. So when we say when we take when we eat food, we get energy. Okay, you all know that. How does that take place? So us eating food, how does that generate energy? So eventually when you eat food, right, you will have a cell here. When you eat food, eventually glucose will enter the cell, right? This glucose, once it enters the cell, it will undergo series of chemical reactions eventually to form a molecule known as ATP. That ATP is the one that generates the energy. So have you heard of this ATP molecule before? Yes or no? Right, you have heard of this ATP molecule before. So now see, now we will go into details of biochemistry later as we are moving on with the syllabus, okay? But as you can see, this glucose does not directly give you energy. It is undergoing a series of chemical reactions, eventually forming ATP, which is the one that generates the energy. So these chemical reactions that take place within a cell is known as biochemistry. Same thing for photosynthesis. So plants require water, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and we will give you glucose. How? Chemical reactions take place inside the chloroplast, which will eventually give rise to glucose. So that chemical reaction process is known as biochemistry. Okay. All right. Then what is remaining? What is remaining? Genetics. Wow. This is even better than everything that we have learned so far. Genetics is the code for human life. What does that mean? The entire information that makes up you is there inside your DNA and the molecules around it. Okay? The entire information necessary to make you is there in your DNA and the molecules around it. So studying this DNA will tell you exactly how life works, because DNA is the most fundamental part. It is the genetic, or it is the code for life. If you take a machine, or if you make an app, let's say, if you copy now let's say you have two computers, right? Here you have computer 1, here you have computer 2. So you copy this code and paste it into computer 1, you will get a program. That same code you paste it into computer 2, you will get the same program. So that code is the fundamental thing. Likewise, in humans, the DNA is the fundamental thing, right? So my height, that I will stop exactly at 183 centimeters. Then my eye color, that it is brown or dark brown. My hair color, that it is black. My hair texture, that it is curly. Then what else? My intelligence, every single thing is decided by the DNA. But now, don't tell, okay, if everything is decided by the DNA, what's the point of even trying? That is where you have some other thing known as epigenetics. Sometimes environmental conditions can change the way the DNA is read. This will again be taught in Unit 6 and Unit 7. Okay? Right. The fascinating part of genetics is when you have molecular engineering. So let's say, now you know, no? So many children that are born, sometimes they have genetic conditions. So it's a sad thing. So they didn't do anything wrong. They did not eat a lot of bad food. They did not, stay without doing any exercise, nothing. They were born with it. They did not smoke, nothing. They just born with it. So that's unfair, no? So then, by using this DNA technology, we can cut out that bad part of the DNA and replace it with the good part. Simply put, that is the CRISPR technology that is currently being developed. So CRISPR is CRISPR. CRISPR. CRISPR technology that is currently being developed. So eventually people will be able to change this bad DNA and replace it with good DNA such that they will not get any genetic diseases. That is the future. If I did not do medicine, I would have gone down the path of DNA because that is the most lucrative field, or like what do you say, most fascinating field where you can get rid of diseases even before they start causing you problems. You're able to manipulate nature itself if you can manipulate DNA. Okay, right. Ecology, study of the environment. Study of the environment. Why do you think the study of the environment is important? If you don't think environment is important, I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you all have gone hiking? Or at least trips to these waterfalls, rivers with your family? Just raise your hand. Right. So people have gone hiking. People have gone to these waterfalls. People have gone to mountain tops. People have gone to big, beautiful gardens. Okay. My question to you is, if the garden or if the place that you went to looked like this, will you go? Look how hot it is, mean the water is not even, there's not even enough water. All the water has evaporated. This is like how my skin is if I don't drink water, cracked and open. Would you go to look at this? Take a day off, arrange a trip with your family. You know how it is a trip with your family, So if you're if you're leaving in the morning by 7, your father or mother will wake you up at 5 and shouting this and that, Ade, take that, Ade, take this food, that food. Do you think you will go through all this trouble if your final outcome looks like this? Obviously not. That is why ecology is important. If we learn about the environment, we can protect the environment. If we protect the environment will look very beautiful. If the environment is very beautiful, we will go to look at it. Okay, so that is just one aspect. Another thing, like I have said previously, every single thing that you obtain is obtained from the environment. If you take paper, obtained from the environment. If you take wood, obtained from the environment. Sand, water, everything is obtained from the environment. If we don't take care of the environment, we will eventually die out. Okay, so if you take bees, for example, bees, very important for pollination of flowers, very important for growth of these plants. So if bees die, if we harm these bees and these bees die, the flowers or these plants also will die. We who depend on plants also will die. Understood? So studying the environment, then we can protect the environment. If we protect the environment, then we can survive. So the environment is just as important for us as humans are. Okay. So now this world has existed. This life has existed 3.5 billion years ago, and it will continue to exist for another billions and billions of years ago. Humans started appearing 125,000 years ago. So if you take a billion, right, now if you take there is actually a good saying. If you condense the entire history of Earth into one calendar year, that is from January 1st to December 31st, if you compress the entire life in this world into one calendar year, humans started appearing at 11:59 December 31st. So do you see how insignificant we are? Life is the most important thing. Even if I don't live, life needs to continue. So life has been present billions of years before us. Life will continue to be present billions of years after us. So we need to make sure that we do not destroy this environment. So if you take humans, right? If you take this entire life on Earth from the beginning till now, there has been around 5 major extinctions. That means, now if you take one example, you all would have probably heard of a meteor came and landed somewhere near Mexico that caused dinosaurs to be wiped out. So extinction, that means the species dying out, is normal. However, due to human involvement, this extinction has started to increase by 5 to 6 times. So now animals cannot adapt, they start dying. So we are slowly killing out life, and without life, other life, this life cannot survive, and eventually life will end. We should not want that. Why? We are insignificant. Life is very significant. So we need to make sure life is present after us as life was there before us as well. Okay. Right. Bee honey as medicine for diseases? Yes. Bee honey, it's technically not used as medicine, but bee honey has benefits. Okay, there's a difference between used as a medicine and being used for its benefits. Right? Bee honey has benefits. Technically, it is not used as a medicine. Okay. Right. Isn't biochemistry like metabolism? Very true. Biochemistry is metabolism. Or when you study metabolism, you're technically studying biochemistry. Okay? Right. Then, these are the different branches in biology. Is that clear? So now this is the part where I ask a summary. So now I'm going to, I will choose a person to answer a question. Okay, raise your hand if you are willing to participate. Since it's an introductory session, I will go a bit easy. But from next week onwards, once the actual class starts, I'm not going to ask your permission. You better answer. Okay, but for now, raise your hands if you are confident you can answer my questions. Okay, my first question would be, what is biology? All right. Okay, let's go with Sahla Fazin. Okay, what did you understand by biology? Can you repeat that? I think she's breaking up a bit. I couldn't hear. I heard some part like it's a study of... Okay, then let's go with the next person. Mariam Sabri. Can you tell me what does biology mean? What do you understand?
For a person to study about life on Earth.
Yes, studying about life on Earth is biology. Good. Then let's go with... Who are the other people who are okay with answering the questions? Raise your hand. Okay, we'll go next one. Sahla Siam. What did you understand about physiology? Sahla Siam. Am I pronouncing it? Yes.
Study about the functions
Yes.
organisms.
Studying about the functioning of the human organism. Human or other organisms. Okay, good. So now this is like a example of how I would be actually doing it, but here there is not much to summarize even, so we will be moving on to the next topic. Okay. Right? Then, issues pertaining to biology. Issues pertaining to biology means, now why do we study biology? That is the reason. Issues pertaining to biology is, why do we study biology? Okay, let's take a look at the first one. To understand biological diversity. So we are studying biology to learn about the different forms of life. Like I told you previously, animals, plants, fungi, protists, microorganisms, so many different organisms are there. We need to learn about these organisms. We need to learn what is the role that they play in sustaining life. And if we understand the role that they play in sustaining life, we can make sure this entire world will continue with the life that it has. Okay? So let's take a look at the first set. At present, our planet is rich in diversity. We have close to 100 million species on Earth. Okay? And some of the species are still yet to be identified. Okay? Life on Earth formed 3.5 billion years ago. This is important because it has come in MCQs. Okay? So life on Earth is formed around 3.5 billion years ago. Okay, not million, billion. So it's a long time ago. All right. The first formed organisms are believed to be heterotrophic, anaerobic, prokaryotes. So the three characteristics of the first formed organism. Now we saw no life on earth formed 3.5 billion years ago. So the characteristics of the first organisms were heterotrophic, anaerobic, prokaryotes. Does anybody know what heterotrophic mean? It's okay, I will answer, but I'm just asking. Organisms that eat other organisms. Okay, that is heterotrophic. I think that's what you said. I couldn't hear properly. All right. Heterotrophic is organisms that consume other organisms or molecules. Okay, that is heterotrophic. What is the opposite? Autotrophic. Organisms that can generate their own food. Heterotrophic, organisms that depend on others for their food. Autotrophic, organisms that can generate their own food. So the first formed organisms were not capable of undergoing photosynthesis. They were simple organisms. So photosynthesis is a very complex process, right? But the first formed organisms were simple. So they could not photosynthesize. So therefore they needed to be heterotrophic. Okay? Right. Then anaerobic. Anaerobic means they do not use oxygen for energy. Right? So in the early earth, 3.5 billion years ago, the oxygen level in the atmosphere was very, very low. Okay? The oxygen level in the atmosphere was very low. Therefore, if there is no oxygen, these people, or these not people obviously, these organisms should be able to generate energy without oxygen. Now humans are aerobic organisms. We need oxygen to survive. But these first formed organisms are anaerobic. They do not require oxygen to survive. Okay? Then prokaryotes. You know there are two types, eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Eukaryotes means they have a true nucleus. Prokaryotes means they do not have a nucleus. Again, keep in mind the first formed organisms were simple organisms. Having a nucleus is a very complex organelle. So if you take these two cells, right, let's take eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Eukaryotes have a nucleus, but prokaryotes had their genetic material just present inside the cell without a nucleus covering them. So here you have an organized nucleus, therefore this is known as eukaryote. This one did not have an organized nucleus, therefore it is known as prokaryote. So did you understand the difference between eukaryotes and prokaryotes? Yes, without an organized nucleus is also correct, right? Prokaryotes do not have an organized nucleus, while eukaryotes have an organized nucleus. Okay? So, like I told you, first formed organisms were simple, therefore they did not have this complex nucleus. So, what are the three characteristics? Heterotrophic, anaerobic, and prokaryotic. Okay, so that again is a question that has come in a past paper. So, take a look at this. Scientists assume, so like I told you previously, that there are about 10 million to over 100 million species in the world. There is a dynamic relationship between living world and the inanimate world, and each and every organism has a specific role in the environment. Best way to understand is, look at this, right? I'll zoom in a bit more. Right, I think you should be able to see this now. Okay, so we saw, why are we learning about this diversity? Why are we learning about different types of organisms? Because each organism has a specific role to its environment, and this environment is what keeps life alive. If there is no suitable environment for life, there will be no life on earth, right? So each organism has a specific role. So let's take a look at, I will draw one instead of depending on this. Let me draw one. Okay, let's take this. You have the ground, then you have the trees, you have what color is a giraffe? Giraffe is yellow, no? Okay, this is a giraffe. Okay, this is a giraffe. Then okay, right? What is this? You have a giraffe, you have a tree. Take a look at each individual organism's role in this environment. This tree produces its own food using what? Carbon dioxide, water, sunlight. It produces its own food. This giraffe over here is using that food to depend. That means heterotrophic. It is using that food for its survival. Okay. So this giraffe is eating that food. Now for this plant to survive, this plant requires nutrients. Not only carbon dioxide, not only water, not only sunlight. It also requires potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium, boron, zinc, so many different minerals. So where does it obtain its minerals? It obtains its minerals, one, from the soil. Okay, right. It obtains its minerals from the soil. So as it is taking in the minerals from the soil, the amount of minerals that are present in the soil is going down. Understandable, no? As it is taking more minerals, the amount of minerals in the soil is going down. Okay? Right. Then it is using these minerals to survive. Then it is using the water, sunlight, carbon dioxide to generate its own food. Then that food is consumed by this giraffe over here. So now this giraffe is surviving thanks to this tree. But as you can notice, the minerals are continuously being used up by this tree. Now there is reduced minerals in the soil. Okay, then what happens? Eventually this giraffe will die. So let me draw a dead giraffe. Okay, okay, this is a dead giraffe. Eventually this giraffe will die, right? So now this giraffe ate this tree. This giraffe was eating from this tree. So all the minerals, nutrients that were present in these trees were taken in by this giraffe. So ideally what should happen, after the giraffe is dead, whatever minerals and nutrients that this giraffe has in its body should be sent back into the soil. Only then will the amount of nutrients in the soil increase such that this tree can provide for another giraffe, for another animal. Did you understand that? So that means the minerals and whatever organic material from this giraffe should go back into the soil. How does that occur? By some organisms known as decomposers. Bacteria, fungi, organisms which we cannot see with our own eyes are present that slowly break down this giraffe into smaller particles, which is absorbed into the soil, and the mineral content is now increasing. Then this plant can take in these minerals and use it to generate its own food, and another animal can depend. As you can see, it is continuing the life. Did you understand? So can you see how many organisms were there? Different types of microorganisms, this plant, even non-living things like minerals and these biological molecules, sunlight, water, all of it, non-living, living, each component has its role in the environment. Okay, so when we study about the role of living beings, then we study biodiversity. So just by studying humans we cannot survive. We need to study about these microorganisms. We need to study about this giraffe. We need to study about these trees. But if this tree gets a disease, then it cannot support the giraffe. But if these microorganisms are, let's say, unable to break down this giraffe, so we can only identify a problem if we understood how they work. So for that reason, we need to study biological diversity. Okay. So can that kind of a question come for these last 10 MCQs? I assume you are talking about this part. Where? This one. Yes, possible. It can come. So did you understand why we need to learn about biological diversity? Everyone? Good. Then we will go to the next part. Understanding the human body and its functions. Right? We learn about understanding the human body and its functions. Right. Let's take a look. When studying biology, especially by studying histology, anatomy of the human body, one can gain the knowledge about the structure of the organs. This results in understanding and appreciation of the human body and understanding the functions of different organ systems and the relationships. So, what do you mean by the, okay, will we be asked questions from the first unit? Yes, will be asked. That's why I told you, this part. This 3.5 billion years ago, heterotrophic anaerobic prokaryotes, those questions can be asked. So, understanding human body and its functions. Let's cover this as the last topic for today, right? Don't want to overwhelm you with content. We'll slowly increase it, all right? Understanding the human body and its functions. Didn't we just learn it? Why do we learn about the human body? Look at this, histology and anatomy. Histology is the study of tissues. Anatomy is the study of a structure. So when we learn about anatomy, when we learn about this histology or the way the tissues are arranged, then we can see how this body functions in a normal situation. Okay, so now for example, let's take the stomach. Okay, I'm sure you all would have heard about this. If you take the stomach has very elastic walls. Very elastic walls. Why does it need to have elastic walls? Because when we eat, the stomach expands. So how do we know that the stomach has elastic walls? One thing, we learned it through the histology. We studied the tissues in the stomach. Another thing, we learned it by looking at the stomach. Once we look at now, there is something known as dissection. Okay, once you come into medical faculty, the first 2 years you have a dead body that is donated. Okay, that body is donated. We have to treat it with utmost respect because we learn our anatomy because they donated their body, right? They are in their most vulnerable state, completely naked, cold, in an empty dissection hall. Why? To further our knowledge and to eventually help us become doctors, right? So we need to treat them with utmost respect. So this is just for an example. So when you have these bodies, right, we cut open these bodies and we take organs and we look at it. So then instead of looking at it through a textbook, it is much more, you would learn much more. You will remember it for a longer time when you look at it in a real body. Okay, how it is arranged in a real body. So once we do these dissections, we take a look at the heart, the lungs, the bladder, the stomach, intestines, the muscles, bones. Then we can have a proper understanding about this structure. So for example, if you take the bladder is like a sac, but this bladder can expand, this bladder can contract. So why does the bladder need to expand and contract? To store urine. Then if you take the intestine, I think we have the image. Where is it? Right. Here, this is the image of an intestinal wall. Take a look. It has finger-like projections. And each of these finger-like projections, take a look, these finger-like projections also have finger-like projections. So that increases the surface area for absorption of nutrients of what we eat. So see, each structure, the tissue, all of them are adapted for a specific function. So we know this specific function because we studied this histology, because we studied this anatomy. Is that clear? Understood? Did you faint? Oh, villi and have you all heard about villi and microvilli? I'm teaching like, that you all don't know anything about the subject. Have you all heard about villi and... then no problem. Did you faint, sir, when looking at the grade 11 6th lesson? Right. So for no reason I explained it like I'm explaining to a bunch of children. Okay, so this increases the surface area. Okay, so that facilitates absorption. All right. Then one question is, did you faint, sir, looking at the dead body? No, I did not faint, because one thing, there is no blood, and again I don't faint for blood either. But the smell was very difficult. It is not a smell of a rotting body, but rather they use formalin, I think formaldehyde or formalin, I think both are the same. Okay, so they use that chemical to preserve the body. Okay, so they use that chemical to preserve the body, that has such a burning effect. Like it burns the eyes and it burns your throat. I think maybe I was a little bit extra sensitive. Other people did not find it as a problem, but I didn't like that smell. I wanted to leave. I came to mark my attendance, and then I left and studied anatomy through a book, because I couldn't tolerate being inside it. Okay, so that is why that is my experience with we call it a cadaver. Okay, that is my experience with a cadaver. So nothing. When you understand the human body and its function, when it is working normally, then only you will know what is the problem when it works abnormally. So when you know, okay, the intestine looks like this when it is normal. So only when it is normal, only when you know how it looks like when it is normal, will you know how it looks like when it's abnormal. So when you learn about the human body, you learn how the body acts when it is healthy. And then when an abnormal scenario or where a diseased patient comes, then you know, okay, this is supposed to be like this. This is the change that has occurred. So we need to find a way to correct that. Okay, so that is why we learn about the human body. Understood? Okay, so understanding the human body and its functions, right? Okay, then we shall stop there. Do you have any questions regarding what we did today? Do you have any questions regarding what we did today? Hello? Yes or no? Do you have any questions? Yes, recording will be provided. Okay, it will be uploaded as a YouTube video also. Sorry, it will be uploaded as a YouTube video only, so you can watch that. Right? So now regarding the joining of the class, so I like to take as many students as possible. That is also like I want to make as many students benefit from this as possible, but unfortunately it is just me and one other person who will, that accountability I talked about, going behind each person to make sure they studied. If I have 50 students or something like that, then it is difficult for me to do that. Maybe in the future, like the next batches, I would increase the number, but for now I think 30 is around 30 would be the maximum that I can take. Okay, so how will I decide whether you are a suitable student is if you fill that Google form. Okay, you will fill that Google form. So within the next 2 to 3 days, I will go through every response in the Google form and I will choose the one with the most passion for the subject. Okay, so there is a Google form, and if you haven't gotten the Google form, if you just joined it through a link, please contact this number to obtain the Google form. Yes, questions will be asked from the first unit. I told no previously, the questions will be asked from the first unit, but rarely, and sometimes even if it is asked, it's just 1 or 2 marks. Okay. Okay, so if you have no problems, please fill this Google form. If you don't have access to the Google form, please send a message to this number and I will send you the Google form. All right. So once you are selected, I will send you with the details on how to register. So you need to give me your full name, your address, because I will be couriering these colored tubes. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. So if you, and also make sure you check this out. Right, Ahsan Safir Biology on YouTube, right? I have given how to approach every single subject, how to deal with anxiety and stress, then how to study when you're low on time, but then you all are not low on time, you all have so much time left, right? So go through this and learn how to study each subject. Even if you don't watch these videos, I will anyway tell you all as we are moving on, because I am not only going to be focused on your biology, I am going to be focusing on your physics and chemistry. I'm not going to teach it, but I'm going to make sure, I'm going to ask you whether you did the work that your teachers had given. All right. So all the advice that I would give to an A-level student is here for every time, from the beginning if you're studying, from the middle if you're studying, last moment if you're studying, everything is there. Physics, chemistry, biology, all are there. Okay, right. Then if you don't have anything else, then we can stop. Will we have to explain the main branches of biology? No, that has never been asked, because again, it's just an introduction. That heterotrophic anaerobic prokaryotes 3.5 billion years ago, and later natural resources, food production, then order and organization, definition of metabolism, then definition of growth, definition of development. As we are going further, I will tell you, okay, I will tell you what comes in the exam, right? So far, that 3.5 billion years ago, characteristics of first organisms have been asked in the exams, okay? How much is the monthly fee? Monthly fee is 3,500 rupees. 3,500 rupees. There is no admission fee, nothing. We just have to pay this for registration. Can I join your 2027 A-level batch? What for? Are you a 27 batch student or 28 batch student? Or are you the one who wanted to do it quickly? Class time, same time, 5 to 8 p.m. During the Ramadan time, I will give you a big break to break your fast, pray and come. But after Ramadan is over, we will be shortening the break time. Okay? You are 2027 batch student. Then you don't have to join the 2028 class, because if you are a 2027 batch student, from the first class I have given recordings for free. If you are registered, you will get the recordings for free. So just join my 27 class. Don't need to join this. Okay? So when is the next class? Again, next Friday. Every Fridays, 5 to 8 p.m. Okay? Okay, you're welcome. Should we resubmit? No. If you have submitted the Google form, no problem. Don't need to resubmit it. Okay, no problem. We are welcome. Will they ask the definitions of life and biology? No, they won't ask the definitions of life and biology. Very simple questions, no, they won't ask. You're welcome. Okay, if you want to register for the 2027 batch class, please send a message. I will give you the information, okay? But you don't have to join this. all the recordings from the beginning of unit 2 till the end of unit 4 and digestion. I think I have done until that point. So you will get the recordings free of charge. Don't need to pay extra, just register for the class. Yes, 2027 batch students, yes, I will intake. Now this is something that I'm trying newly, right? Now my goal is, what I understood from this A-level teaching is the students' effort is 75%, teachers' contribution is 25%. With this program, I want to increase the teachers' contribution to 50%. That means you getting an A should be because of me. That is a selfish idea. But I want to see whether I have the capability. If I focus on just 30 students, will I be able to make each and every person get an A? That is my goal. Alright? So 2027 batch, 2026 batch, they are going normally. And if you are not within this 30, you can join my physical class also. But this is a thing that I wanted to test my capability. If I directly get involved in each and every person's education, will I be able to get them? Will I be able to make them get an A? Because I have spent so many hours. It's not even an exaggeration to say 1,000 hours. I have spent more than 1,000 hours researching how to learn. So I feel like I have gotten the final system which I think would work for everyone. So that is why this program is to choose the 30 passionate people. I don't care about your marks. It can be low, it can be high, don't care. This system should work for everyone. That is why I have this plan. Okay. So 2027, 2026, you can just join, no problem. Okay, I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Physical class at Kandy, no. Physical class will be kept in Dematagoda, Sateha College. Okay. Okay, then I think I have answered everybody's question. Okay, you're welcome. You all can leave now.
Recording stopped.